Ladies and gentlemen,
In 2022, Ice Spice came out of nowhere and became one of the fastest rising female rappers in music history. Within a single year, she had a co-sign from Drake, a collab with Nicki Minaj, and a feature with Taylor Swift. That combination of names should not be possible for someone who had been famous for 12 months. But somehow she pulled it off. And then, somehow, she managed to lose more than half her audience almost as fast as she gained it. So what actually went wrong? Because something clearly did. Let's start at the beginning. Ice Spice broke through in late 2022 with a song called Munch. The hook was simple, the beat was simple, the lyric was simple, and it took over TikTok almost overnight. What made it work was the timing. TikTok rap was at its peak, short punchy hooks were dominating the algorithm, and Ice Spice had the look, the energy, and the right song, exactly the right moment. Drake shouted her out publicly, which in rap terms is basically handing someone a golden ticket. She followed that with a Nicki Minaj collaboration, then somehow landed a feature on a Taylor Swift track. In under 12 months, she had touched 3 of the biggest names in music across 3 completely different fan bases. On paper, her trajectory was untouchable. Now here's where it starts going sideways. Everyone who blows up on the internet does so because of a specific thing. A specific moment, a specific move, a specific vibe that catches people at the right time. And for Ice Spice, twerking became that thing. Which was fine at first. But here's the problem with having one signature move. At some point, you have to evolve past it. Because if months and then years go by, and you're still doing the exact same thing in every situation, it stops being a signature and starts being a limitation. And Ice Spice never seemed to get that memo. It doesn't matter where she is or what she's doing, the twerking never stops. She was invited to freestyle on a live stream. An actual rap freestyle. And she started twerking instead of rapping. A freestyle, where you're supposed to be rapping. And she twerked. But if twerking was the only issue, she'd probably be fine. The bigger problem is the music itself. Because if you listen closely to Ice Spice's catalog, there's a pattern. The beats are similar. The flow is similar. The lyrics cover the same territory over and over. And somehow, and I say this with complete sincerity, she keeps finding ways to reference poop in her verses. This is not a joke. There are TikTok compilation videos dedicated entirely to tracking every time Ice Spice has mentioned poop in her songs. Her song BB Belt includes the line, "I BB my belt, I miss poopy, but I never smell." And that's not a one-off bar buried in a verse somewhere. That's from a chorus that repeats multiple times throughout the song. And then she named an entire song after a bodily function. And that song has a chorus that also repeats multiple times. The question isn't whether this is good music. The question is who is approving this. Now let's talk about the personality side of this, because the music and the twerking might be fixable. The character stuff is harder to come back from. The first major incident was the Nicki Minaj situation. Ice Spice collaborated with Nicki on a remix. On the surface, that was a huge career moment. Nicki doesn't feature with just anyone. But then it came out that Ice Spice had been privately talking negatively about Nicki while publicly acting like everything was fine. When that got out, Nicki's fanbase, the Barbz, turned on Ice Spice immediately. And the Barbz are not a fanbase you want as enemies. They are organized, they are dedicated, and they have a very long memory. Then came the Central Cee situation. For context, Mélanie RG and Central Cee had been in a relationship. And then almost immediately after their breakup, Central Cee was publicly seen with Ice Spice. Now people break up and move on. That happens. But the way Ice Spice handled the public attention around it was where it got messy. Instead of staying quiet or being diplomatic about a situation that involved a real person who had just gone through a breakup, Ice Spice leaned into it publicly. And Mélanie RG was very vocal about how she felt, saying she hadn't even properly broken up with him before he was already posted up with someone else. Whether you take sides on this or not, the optics were bad. And it added another group of people to the growing list of fan bases that didn't like Ice Spice. But the situation that I think defined Ice Spice's character more than anything else, more than the Nicki situation, more than the Central Cee drama, was what happened with Cleo Trappa on tour. Here's what happened. Ice Spice invited Cleo Trappa, a friend of hers, to come on tour with her. Last-minute invitation, very short notice. But Cleo accepted and made it work. And Ice Spice told her not to worry about finances, she'd cover everything. That was the agreement. And then the reality of the tour was very different from what was promised. Cleo Trappa posted a 6-part TikTok series detailing what actually happened on that tour. And the details are not flattering for Ice Spice. Cleo described being treated like a second-class citizen by Ice Spice's team. The specific moment that went most viral was when she described being left behind her bag, sitting alone while everyone else's luggage had already been loaded and moved. She asked security to help with her bag and was told no. She was a guest that Ice Spice personally invited. And her bag got left behind while everyone else's was taken care of. That one detail, a bag being left behind, somehow said everything about how Ice Spice's team viewed her presence on that tour. And then Ice Spice responded. And the response made things worse. Instead of addressing the specific incidents, Cleo described the bag, the financial promises, being made to feel like a burden. Ice Spice's response was essentially about entitlement. She said something along the lines of, "My team works for me, not for you. Why would you expect my people to carry your bags?" And while technically that might be true in some contexts, it completely misses the point. You personally invited this person last minute. You told them not to worry about finances. And then when they raise concerns on your tour, in your environment, surrounded by your team, you respond by questioning why they expected to be treated like a guest rather than an inconvenience. And here's what ties all of this together. Because the Nicki situation, the Central Cee situation, and the Cleo Trappa situation aren't 3 separate isolated incidents. They're the same pattern playing out 3 different times. In each case, Ice Spice does something that damages a relationship, gets called out publicly, and then responds in a way that doesn't actually address the criticism and often makes the situation worse. And every time it happens, she adds another fan base to the list of people who don't like her. The Barbz, Mélanie RG's supporters. The people who rallied around Cleo Trappa. These aren't small groups. And in music, perception matters as much as talent. Now here's the question everyone is dancing around, but nobody wants to say directly. Is Ice Spice actually talented? And I think the honest answer is yes, but in a very specific and limited way. She has charisma. She has a unique voice and delivery. Munch worked because it was catchy and she was the right person delivering it at the right cultural moment. But there's a difference between being talented at one specific thing in one specific moment and having the range to build a lasting career. And the evidence so far: the repetitive lyrics, the twerking as a substitute for actual performance, the music not connecting the way it did initially suggests that Ice Spice hasn't developed past that original moment yet. And the window for doing that is not unlimited. So what would actually fix this? Because Ice Spice is not a lost cause. She's young. She still has name recognition. She still has streaming numbers that most artists would kill for even in decline. But the path back to where she was or higher requires actual change, not just a new single. The twerking needs to become one tool in a larger arsenal, not the entire arsenal. The music needs to develop past the formula that worked in 2022 and find something with more range and more substance. And the pattern of public feuds needs to stop, not because she should let people walk over her, but because every public incident costs her fans she's not replacing. The talent was always there. The question is whether she developed it before the window closes. Here's where I land on Ice Spice. She had one of the most impressive 12-month runs in recent rap history. And then she spent the following year systematically dismantling what she built through repetitive music. An over-reliance on a single gimmick, and a series of public incidents that each cost her a chunk of her audience. The fall from where she was to where she is now is not a mystery. It's a very clear chain of decisions and patterns. Whether she course corrects depends entirely on whether the people around her are honest with her and whether she's willing to listen. Because right now she has enough name recognition to rebuild. But name recognition has an expiration date, and hers is ticking.